In the decaying outskirts of Detroit, where hollow houses slumped like broken bones and the streets echoed with nothing but the hum of the wind, 3 young thieves thought they had found their way out of misery. Rocky, a desperate girl suffocating under her mother's cruelty, dreamed of escaping with her little sister Diddy to California. Alex, quiet and reluctant, used his father's security company access to get them into houses. And Money, loud, greedy, reckless, craved danger like oxygen. Together, they prowled the ruins of the city, stealing from those who still had something worth taking. But one rumor changed everything. Money heard of a blind veteran living alone in a forgotten neighborhood, a man who had supposedly received a massive settlement after his daughter was killed in a hit and run. "He can't see, man. He won't even know we were there," Money said with a grin. No family, no neighbors, no police around. Just a blind old man and his hidden fortune. The idea sounded too perfect. But as they scoped out the house, a rotting, fortress-like structure with boarded windows and iron bars, they all felt something uneasy. The place seemed to breathe. That night, the air was thick with humidity and dread. The 3 parked far down the road and crept across the dead grass. The old man's dog, a massive black Rottweiler, snarled behind the gate until Money tossed a sedative-laced sausage. It collapsed, and for a moment, silence returned. They circled the house, finding every door bolted tight. Finally, Alex unlocked a small window in the bathroom, and Rocky slid inside, careful not to make a sound. The smell hit her first, a blend of rot, oil, and something faintly metallic. She opened the front door for the others, and the house swallowed them whole. Money took the lead, flashlight darting across walls lined with war medals, faded photos, and a large cross. They crept past the living room where the old man slept on a worn couch, his breathing shallow, rhythmic, like a ticking bomb. A gun rested on the couch beside him. They found a door leading to the basement, locked with heavy bolts. "That's where he's keeping it," Money whispered. He took out a silencer and fired at the lock. The muffled shot echoed through the house like a heartbeat. The old man stirred. His breathing stopped. The 3 froze. Then, slowly, he sat up, his head turned toward them, unseeing but listening. The silence was unbearable. Money waved his gun. "Stay quiet," he mouthed, but it was too late. The old man stood, reached for his pistol, and fired. The blast shattered the darkness. Money fell to the floor, gasping, blood pooling beneath him. The old man stepped closer, feeling the walls, counting his steps. He knelt, pressed a hand to Money's face, and realized there were more. Rocky covered her mouth, trembling. Alex pulled her backward, and they slipped into a hallway. The old man dragged Money's body away, bolting the front door behind him. Now, they were trapped. The sound of dragging chains and footsteps echoed through the house. Rocky's heart pounded so hard she thought he could hear it. They crept toward a back window, but the bars were welded shut. They could see the Rottweiler stirring outside, whining, recovering. Panic began to rise. The old man moved like a predator, his ears straining for the slightest sound, his hands gliding across the walls. He turned off every light, plunging the house into complete darkness. For him, it made no difference, but for them, it was pure hell. In the basement, they discovered something that made them wish they'd never come. A woman, gagged, bound, and chained to a ceiling beam, stared at them with eyes that screamed for help. On the wall beside her hung old newspaper clippings about the hit and run that killed the blind man's daughter. The realization hit like a punch. This woman was the driver. He hadn't turned her in. He had kept her. Before they could free her, the old man appeared at the top of the stairs, gun in hand. He fired into the dark. Alex and Rocky ducked, and the bullet struck the captive woman. She fell, her body twitching, blood spreading like ink. The old man stumbled down the steps, his face contorted in grief. "You took her from me," he whispered. "Now she's gone again. Then his voice hardened. "You owe me another." Rocky stifled a scream. The man locked the basement door, sealing them in. Alex found a hammer and pried at a vent, urging Rocky to crawl through. The metallic tunnel groaned as she slithered forward, her breath echoing in her ears. The old man, moving faster than seemed possible, found the vent and began smashing it with his fists, sending sparks of metal raining down. Rocky screamed, crawling faster until she dropped into a small storage room filled with jars, tools. She gagged, stumbled backward, and grabbed a crowbar. Alex caught up, blood running down his arm from a glass shard. "We have to go now," he hissed, but every door was locked, every window barred. The old man's footsteps echoed from above. He was hunting them like prey, and the house was his weapon. They managed to reach the kitchen where the dog lunged through a broken window, teeth bared. They slammed a door shut just in time. When the old man caught him, it was sudden, a blur in the dark. They crashed into the basement again. The old man wrapped his hands around Alex's neck, growling. "You think I'm helpless? You think darkness is your friend?" The old man fired in his neck and turned his attention to Rocky. "You killed my baby's mother," he said quietly, pulling out a large container from the shadows. Inside was something horrific, a glass jar filled with thick fluid. "I'm not a monster," he whispered. "I just want what was taken from me." Then he grabbed Rocky, holding her down as he prepared to use a makeshift contraption, a twisted plan to impregnate her and replace what he'd lost. But Rocky fought back. She kicked him, hard, sending the jar crashing to the floor. She swung the crowbar, striking his head, sending him sprawling. The old man screamed, blinded not by darkness but by pain. She bolted up the stairs, unlocking the door just as the dog charged again. It cornered her in the hallway, snarling. She dove into a vent and kicked the dog away, tumbling into the front room. She unlocked the front door and ran into the dawn. The street was empty, silent. Behind her, the house stood still, a black wound in the earth. Rocky held Diddy's hand at the bus station, trembling. The news on a nearby TV spoke of a home invasion gone wrong, the blind man found injured but alive, claiming self-defense. The newscaster said nothing about the basement. Rocky turned away, tears burning her eyes. The bus doors closed, and as it pulled away, she glanced out the window. For just a moment, in the reflection of the glass, she swore she saw him, standing across the street, head tilted, unseeing eyes turned straight toward her. And though he couldn't see, somehow he smiled. The storm began the night Mia returned to her father's house. The wind howled through the forest, bending trees like brittle bones. The sky was bruised black, the air thick with decay. It had been 10 years since she last set foot on that cursed property, a forgotten house buried deep in the woods where her father, Adrian Cole, had vanished after rumors of a dark ritual gone wrong. The police had found nothing but strange markings on the basement walls and a blood-stained journal that spoke of the price of eternal wealth. Mia had never believed in demons or curses. She believed her father had simply gone mad after her mother's death. But when the lawyer called saying the property now belonged to her and her estranged step-siblings, curiosity turned to dread. The lawyer's voice trembled when he said, "Be careful what you touch in that house." The front door creaked open as if it had been waiting for her. The smell hit first, mildew, rot, and something metallic, like old blood. Dust floated in the stale air as her flashlight beam caught remnants of her childhood. A broken photo frame, a doll missing an eye, and the faint outline of handprints on the wall. Too small to be her father's, too many to belong to one person. Her stepbrother, Lucas, followed behind with his camera, recording everything for his vlog. "This is perfect content," he said, grinning. "The haunted mansion of a failed businessman who vanished into thin air. Viral gold." Mia wanted to slap him. Their steps echoed down the narrow hallway until they reached the basement door. It was locked with heavy chains, but the padlock hung open, as if someone had already gone inside. The moment Mia's fingers brushed the handle, the temperature dropped, her breath clouding the air. A faint whisper slid through the darkness. "You shouldn't have come back." Downstairs, the air was thick, wet, and cold. The walls were covered in black mold and strange sigils scrawled in dried blood. At the center of the room sat a rotting wooden table, upon which lay a book bound in cracked leather. The cover was embossed with a symbol that twisted and moved when she stared too long. Lucas, ever the fool, picked it up. "Liber Aeternum," he read. "Looks Latin. Maybe it's a spell book." "Put it down," Mia warned, but it was too late. The candles, unlit for years, sputtered to life, their flames turning black. The air pulsed, and from the corners of the room came the sound of something dragging its claws across the floor. Then came the scream. It wasn't human. It started as a whisper, rose to a shriek, and then split into many voices, crying, laughing, whispering her name. The walls began to bleed, thick, dark liquid oozing from the cracks like the house itself was alive. Lucas dropped the camera, shaking. What the hell was that? His face was pale and stretched thin, his eyes black pits. A figure stepped out of the shadows. It looked like her father. His lips trembled as he spoke. "Mia, you shouldn't have come. He's still here. He wants another soul." "Dad?" she whispered. But before she could move, his face contorted into a grotesque grin, and he lunged. His mouth split open wider than any human's could, revealing jagged teeth slick with black ooze. Lucas swung his flashlight, striking the figure's face. It shrieked and dissolved into smoke. They ran upstairs, but the door slammed shut behind them. The sound of footsteps followed, heavy, uneven, dragging. From the shadows, a woman crawled into view. Her skin was gray, her nails long and cracked. Her eyes were gone, replaced by writhing worms. She smiled, blood dripping from her mouth. "You shouldn't have read the book," she crooned. Screamed as she pounced, her nails slicing through his cheek. He fell, kicking wildly as she tore into his neck. Blood sprayed across the wallpaper. Mia grabbed a broken mirror shard and drove it into the woman's head. The body twitched, then went still. But her mouth kept moving, whispering, "He'll take you all." Mia stumbled backward, her heart pounding. Lucas lay motionless, eyes wide open, his throat a torn mess. The camera light blinked red, recording everything. She picked it up just as the power flickered out. The only light left came from the faint glow seeping through the cracks in the floorboards, like the earth beneath was burning. The whisper returned, now right beside her ear. "You can't leave without paying the price." She ran toward the front door, slamming against it, but it wouldn't budge. Her hands bled as she clawed at the wood. Behind her, something moved, slow, deliberate steps on the creaking floorboards. The smell of sulfur filled the air. She turned, and there it was. The devil, or what wore his shape. It was tall, almost scraping the ceiling, its body made of shifting shadows, its face a mass of twisting flesh and horns. Its voice was everywhere, inside her head. The figure extended a, "Your father made a deal," it said. "He wanted wealth, power, life eternal. But he broke the pact. His soul is mine. And now—" Long, skeletal hand. "His bloodline must finish the bargain." Mia stumbled back, clutching a nearby crucifix, but it melted in her hand, hissing like acid. The floorboards cracked open beneath her feet, revealing a pit of black fire. From the flames, hands reached up, charred, desperate, grasping for her. Her father's voice screamed from below. "Save yourself!" The demon lunged, and instinct took over. She grabbed the book from the basement floor. It had somehow appeared beside her, and flipped through its pages until she found a passage scrawled in fresh blood. "To bind the devil, the blood of the cursed must burn with his..." Without thinking, she tore a piece of wood from the shattered floor, lit it from the hellish flames, and pressed it against her arm. The pain was unbearable, her skin blistering instantly. With trembling fingers, she carved the name she saw etched in the book, Abaddon. The demon roared, its form twisting violently. light exploded through the house, and the walls began to collapse. Screams filled the air, voices of the damned crying in agony. The demon's body split apart, its shadow bleeding into the floor until only silence remained. When Mia awoke, the house was gone. She was lying in a crater of ash and smoke, the dawn breaking over the trees. Her arm burned with the name she had carved, still fresh and bleeding. Lucas's camera lay beside her, its lens cracked but still recording. She picked it up and watched the final moments it captured. The demon's face, the fire, her own eyes glowing black. The last frame showed her smiling, her voice whispering to the camera, "He's free now, and I am his." The camera went dark. 3 days later, rescuers found the footage, but no sign of Mia's body. Locals claimed they heard screams from the woods at night, voices crying for help, followed by laughter that made blood run cold. And when the next storm rolled through, travelers swore they saw a light flicker deep within the forest, a house that shouldn't exist, a door that always stands open, waiting for the next soul to enter. Many had been here before me. I could tell by the strange, horrifying things written on the walls. Messages and symbols smeared in blood covered the cold concrete, some so old that the redness had faded to a dull brown, and others so fresh that the metallic stench of blood still hung thick in the air. The ceiling above was crumbling, threatening to collapse at any moment and crush me where I sat. I was trapped, a prisoner in a cage of concrete and decay. The 3 walls surrounded me like tombstones, and it was upon these walls that the madness of others had been carved in crimson despair. One of the walls, opposite the barred side, had a small opening where a thin shaft of moonlight slipped through. In the oppressive darkness, that faint beam was the only thing that illuminated my cell, not enough to bring comfort, but enough to see the filth I was drowning in. The opening was too far to reach, too small for any man to crawl through, barely 4 inches high and 7 inches wide. The other side of my cell was lined with metal bars, rusted and cold, separating me from the unseen corridor beyond. The air reeked. The foulness of dried blood mingled with the sickly odor of rotting flesh. I half expected to see a demon crouched in one of the dark corners watching me. This prison cell was hell itself, a place where only the filthiest of men, like me, belonged. Sleep refused to come. I sat upright on the edge of my steel bed, the kind found in neglected hospitals, staring blankly at the inverted red pentagram drawn on the wall before me. I wished for death rather than another night in this miserable pit. From outside, a wolf howled in the woods beyond the prison walls, roaming under the full moon's pale light. From the next cell came the sounds of a man weeping, then laughing, then weeping again, as though madness were eating him alive. I could hear nails scraping against concrete, the desperate sound of fingers tearing and bleeding in a futile attempt to dig through solid stone. And above it all were the footsteps of the guards, their boots echoing through the corridor. The metallic clank of their nightsticks hitting the bars was maddening. Under such circumstances, how could a man ever find peace? Only fear found me. A cloud drifted across the moon, swallowing the light, and darkness consumed everything. My senses sharpened. The smell of blood became sharper, the sounds clearer. It was as though the darkness had stolen my sight but given me stronger senses in return, a cruel compensation from hell itself. Then it began to rain. The howls and scratching faded beneath the soft patter of raindrops and distant thunder. For a moment I felt relief. But the smell of blood grew stronger, and it made me imagine that the sky itself was bleeding, raining crimson upon the world. The darkness grew deeper, more absolute. I raised my hand before my face and saw nothing. This kind of darkness should only exist in the depths of the earth where demons dwell. But perhaps that was fitting, for we, the inmates of this place, were demons without horns. I was here because I murdered my brother. From what I'd heard, another prisoner had torn the heart out of his wife and eaten it. Yes, monsters we were. And this was our abyss. I lay down again, praying for sleep, wishing to awaken only when the nightmare was over. when the morning light would finally call me back to sanity. But then a thunderclap roared so loudly that it shook the entire prison. My eyes flew open, the nightmare far from over. I sat up again, shaking my head, drowning in pity and dread. A flash of lightning tore across the sky, lighting the cell for a brief instant, brighter than daylight. In that blinding flash I saw him. A man stood before me, cloaked in black, his face marked by a long scar across his left cheek. My breath caught. That scar. I knew it. It was the cut I had given my brother before I killed him. He shouldn't be here. He was dead. His death was the very reason I was trapped in this damned place. Panic surged through me. Another flash illuminated the cell, and this time he raised his right hand, clutching a dagger, poised to strike. Instinct took over. I grabbed his wrist with my left hand and punched his throat with my right. As he gasped for breath, I tore the dagger from his grip and drove it into his left eye. His eyeball popped free, dangling grotesquely from the blade. He collapsed. Dead. Or dead again. I didn't know why, but suddenly my vision returned. Even without light, I could see everything with unnatural clarity. Madness consumed me. I straddled his corpse, slicing away at his face. I peeled off strips of flesh and ate them. The taste, warm, salty, alive, was intoxicating, far better than the stale prison bread they fed us. With his blood, I wrote words on the floor beside him. When I finished, I looked down at the mangled body, the skinned face, the missing eye, the split tongue, and read what I had written. The dead should be dead. Do not return. Satisfied with my gruesome art, I threw my head back and laughed, a deep, demonic laughter that echoed through the stone walls. Then, suddenly, the ceiling split open and a torrent of blood poured down on me, drenching me from head to toe. I woke up, soaked and shivering. 2 guards stood outside my cell, staring at me through the bars. One held a flashlight shining directly into my face. The other gripped an empty bucket, water dripping from its rim. "Do you know where you are?" one of them asked. "Yes, sir," I answered calmly. "I'm in a prison." "Of course you are," he said. "At least you're not completely insane. Now tell me, why were you laughing like a madman in the middle of the night?" I smiled faintly. "Nothing, sir. Just a good dream." The guards exchanged uneasy glances, muttered something under their breath, and walked away. I lay back on my steel bed, the cold still clinging to my skin, and slowly drifted back into my slumber, back into the darkness that never truly ends.